Hi, I'm Paul Feiner. I'm the Greenburgh Town Supervisor, and we have a very interesting guest. Yonatan Koch is a member of Woodlands Community Temple in Greenburgh, and he's very well liked and very popular. And a few weeks ago, during the summer, I was chatting with him about his life, and it's so inspirational that I invited him to be a guest on this program, because Yonatan wasn't able to read until you were more than 5 years old.
Yes.
And now he has devoted his life helping other people who have special disabilities and special needs. So maybe you could tell us initially about your life and how you overcame a disability.
Sure. I was there, as you mentioned, I couldn't read, write, talk, or walk properly around the age of 5. And I had early intervention, which was very beneficial. And it helped me with all these skills, as well as helping me to overcome the challenges, such as not speaking at the age of 3 and only saying ga, which was the one syllable that I was able to say. And through my parents' effort and the school district in New Milford, Connecticut, I was able to get a lot of help. And while they didn't think I was going to succeed, I'm now, as you mentioned, teaching and working with special needs kids.
When your parents found out that you had a learning disability, were they very, very upset? Did they tell you how they reacted initially?
I didn't talk to them about their initial reaction, but I know they were very clear that I needed help and I needed as many services as were possible. And they were very big on getting me the services.
Do they at any point worry that you would never be able to speak?
They both worried that I would never be able to speak because they didn't know what the outcome was of my learning disabilities and what the outcome would be, because doctors told them that I would never have any of these skills and I wouldn't be able to go further in life than the skills I had when I was young.
So the doctors were more pessimistic than your parents?
Much.
And is it sort of tough? I mean, now, times have, progressed. Are there still parents who may be facing similar worries and anxieties where they're told by doctors that their sons or daughters won't be able to speak, and if they don't give up, maybe they'll be lucky also?
Definitely. I taught early intervention for 20 years, and that means I worked with little kids who were 0 to 3 who didn't have the skills that they should have had by the different milestones that they were supposed to meet. And I was the teacher for their kids and helped them to teach the skills to their kids that they would need to progress in the future.
So one of the lessons is for parents who are watching this is don't give up.
Bingo. Don't ever give up, and don't lose faith in your children's abilities to succeed in life.
So what are some of the tools that you recommend for, say, children who experience what you did?
I make sure you have physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy, and educational services as early as possible, and make sure you're getting them the help that they need even before you think there's a long-term disability.
So if parents wait, does that make it tougher? Like if your parents waited until you were like 6 or 7 years old?
I think that would make it much tougher, and who knows where I would be today. I definitely don't think I would have gone through school, graduated college, and been working with special needs kids to give them the feeling of success that my teachers and parents gave me when I was very young.
Could you go over some of the benefits of the different aspects of therapy? You were mentioning occupational therapy. You mentioned a whole bunch of things before.
Sure. I was working on a lot of school-based disabilities, such as following directions and attending to tasks. And I worked with kids on 1 and 2 and 3 step directions and how to do one thing after another and how to stay focused and make eye contact with me, as well as worked on shapes and letters and numbers.
And how do you teach the kids that?
I sat with kids for a half hour at a time in early intervention, and we worked on the different aspects, such as colors and identifying colors and matching colors to other colors and shapes to other shapes, that we wanted to succeed in getting them to correlate the different shapes and colors to each other.
So is the lessons is sort of like, is it more repetition? So you'd say, this is green, what color is that? Something like that?
For example, I would say we need to put the green coin in the green box or the yellow coin in the yellow box, or we need to sit nicely and look at the storybook and focus on the storybook for this period of time.
And what other lessons do you give? What other tips do you have?
I also suggest to the parents that just because I come 1 or 2 times a week doesn't mean that that's all the practice that their children need. They need to work one-on-one with their children to follow what I teach their children, and they need to work on one-on-one on a continual basis. And early intervention and teaching their kids should not be limited to once or twice a week for 30 to 45 minutes.
So, like, what other lesson tips would you have?
I would suggest to the parents that they play with the toys, and the toys should not be hidden between my sessions. They should bring the toys out in general, because I had some parents who thought as long as I'm doing it with their kids in my once to twice a week sessions, that their children will get these skills. However, I think, and I suggested to parents that they should be using these every day of the week. They should be using these multiple times a day. And my parents did stuff multiple times a day, every day, such as I would point to a cabinet and I would say got, and my mom would say, that's a cabinet. And I would say other syllables, and my mom would say, that's this. My dad would say, are you pointing to this? And even to this day, when I'm working with my special needs kids, I say, let's work on a full sentence. Let's say a full sentence, because I'm now working with a 14-year-old with special needs.
So part of the successes of a student is the parents spending the time.
And repetition.
And repetition.
We need more. The more repetition, the more students are able to succeed in life.
Right. So parents can't just delegate and assume that since they're getting, their sons or daughters are getting help from a professional, that's good enough.
Exactly.
Because it really isn't.
It's really not.
And do you find with people being so, working so hard in their jobs that it's hard to get parents to put in the time that they need?
Occasionally. Some parents don't put as much time in as they need. And I highlight that because the more time you put in, the better the success your child is going to have in the long run.
So your parents must have been saints that they were able to help you overcome some of the challenges.
My parents and grandparents were all saints for helping me overcome the challenges. I'll never forget that I had a fear of heights, and at one point my dad and grandfather stood at the bottom of a hill and said, "Yonatan, you can do it. Come on down the hill. Let's walk down the hill." And they did a lot of repetition of that, and eventually I was able to walk down that hill. But I was really nervous and scared to walk down the hill because of my fear of heights as part of my learning disabilities.
Oh, so are there any other problems that, say, learning disabled young people have? You mentioned fear of heights. Anything else?
I also, as I mentioned I could not say full sentences. I could barely say any words. And working with speech therapists really helped me, and social skills therapists really helped me. I was in pro-social groups to help me learn how to socialize with other kids. And I remember at my bar mitzvah, my mom would be my mom and my dad would be my rabbi, because my dad was a rabbi. And my mom would review my Torah portion with me every day and help me reiterate the words and learn the words for my Torah portion. And I was blessed to have a mom who was a religious educator and a dad who was a rabbi in my life to help me.
You're a member of Woodlands Community Temple in Greenburgh, and you're very popular and very well liked by members of the congregation. Have you always had that winning personality where people gravitate to you and sort of like you as a person? When I see you, I see everybody always wanting to talk to you.
I would like to think so, and that would be great if that were true, but I don't know that for a fact. Well, I just try my best.
That's my observation of that people really seem to like you and gravitate to you. And was that something that you had to learn, or you just were born with that skill?
I had to learn it because I also have other siblings who have had special needs or have special needs. And I always felt that we were all looked on. And when I got to Woodlands Temple, I found a very warm, welcoming community that took me in, including Rabbi Mary and Cantor Jenna.
What are some of what advice would you give to somebody who sees somebody who, a child or a young person who has learning disabilities, and, what could people do to engage, with them to make them feel better?
I think
are there tips that you have, advice how people should not react to people they deal with who have learning disabilities?
I think we should think positively about everyone we meet and assume competence. And I think we should always feel that we can make a difference. Every child is educable, and for every child, they're going on a journey, and teachers and therapists and parents can help on that journey. I always say that a village starts with the parents, and I'm privileged to participate and join the village to help the kids succeed. But it takes the village to raise a child, and I just feel blessed that I can be part of their village.
That is great. What made you want to give back to the community and be a special ed, teacher? Because you personally were helped by your parents and your father and all the therapy that you got. And what made you choose this field?
I knew at the age of 13 that I wanted to give back to kids with the positive feeling that my teachers and parents gave me. And I even mentioned in my bar mitzvah speech that I've been so successful, and that's because of all the teachers and therapists and my parents. And I want to give that positive feeling back to kids who are going through this process and are having these difficulties and need help. And I want to make sure these kids feel as positive about themselves as I have about myself.
Was sort of thinking that there's some people who don't have special needs or disabilities, and they're always complaining and grouchy and don't feel good about life. And here you've overcome some disabilities and some challenges, and you seem to be a very positive person. And that's also an inspiration.
But I also have to say that learning disabilities don't disappear. I mean, I still have trouble reading long books or some books in general. I still have trouble when emails in a group go from person to person to person to person, and met multiple people joining the group that I have a hard time following those emails. And so sometimes I need a point person to help me follow those emails and tell me what the emails are suggesting.
Right. And you also have two brothers and sisters. Could you tell us a little bit about them?
Sure. I have two sisters, one of which is living in Boston and is gainfully employed, and my sister in Brooklyn, who is gainfully employed as a rabbi, Rabbi Shira Koch Epstein, who is also very helpful when I was younger. And I have my little brother Eitan, and I have my brother Matan, who unfortunately succumbed to cancer a couple months ago. But between Adina, Matan, Shira, and Eitan, there's 5 of us. And I was speaking to my mom the other day, and she said out of the 5 of us, I was the only one who was term, or 39 weeks gestational, and the others were about 11 weeks early. And so it's ironic that the boys in my family had disabilities or have disabilities because they never disappear. And the girls have not had the same challenges that the 3 of us have had, which is...
I'm sorry.
Which is just coincidental.
Right, so your brothers who have had disability, what type of disabilities do they have?
My brother Matan had cerebral palsy, and my brother Eitan has executive functioning deficits.
So how did it feel to grow up with with siblings who also have disabilities?
It was hard for me with my brother Matan because he skipped 6th grade and joined me in 7th grade, despite his cerebral palsy. And he went on to become a lawyer. And I always compared myself to him, even though no one else in the world, including him, would compare myself to him. And it's just, God rest his soul. I love him dearly. I just always felt that I was in competition because we were in the same grade, and a lot of people went around him opposed to me. And I always felt that he was the more popular one of the 2 of us, especially when he skipped 6th grade and joined me in 7th.
Oh, wow. And when you were growing up, did your parents give you responsibilities?
Definitely. We all had responsibilities. Shira and I had to wash dishes. I had to take care of my kid siblings. And we had to take the garbage out, like traditional child responsibilities.
So was that sort of something that a parent with a son or daughter who has special disabilities should be focusing on giving their children responsibilities? Does that help you become the person you are?
Yes. Just because I have learning disabilities does not mean that I shouldn't have chores that I have to do as part of a family, because everybody should always be responsible for helping out in the family, no matter what their limitations are. There's other ways they can help.
Right, and then it makes you feel that you're productive and you don't think of yourself as somebody who has a disability.
Right, which thank God my parents did not ever compare us or say, I'm not going to have you do this because you have a disability.
Right.
They saw all of us as their kids, and all of us had responsibilities in the household.
Is it important as an educator to build up people, like when you have your students and if they're making mistakes or whatever, do you keep highlighting the mistakes, or do you focus on their positive qualities, and or is it a mixture? Because I have a tendency to try building people up, but is it wrong to point out their mistakes?
I like to build people up and point out how we can do things differently if one makes a mistake, but I always like to focus on the positive.
And how do you like highlight, say, if they made a mistake? How do you talk to them about that?
Okay, you had a bit of difficulty with this. Let's try it this way, and let's do this. Maybe that will help compensate for the difficulty you had doing it another way.
That's great. And you've also had some experiences in your family with adoptions.
Yes.
And could you mention a little bit about that experience?
Sure. I adopted my 3 children. At my daughter, who's neurotypical at the age of 0 when she was born, and my boys, who both are on the special needs autistic spectrum, who we adopted when they were 7. They are twins, and we are blessed to have the 3 of them. And as I said, just because they have disabilities doesn't mean they're not able to live a wonderful life.
So when you adopted them, did you know that they had a disability?
We knew they had disabilities. We didn't know the extent of their disabilities, and we didn't know how severe the disabilities were.
So that's really, quite, quite impressive that you took on two young people and gave them a life, even knowing that they had disabilities.
Every child deserves a chance at life, and every child deserves to be helped and taught and worked with. Just because they have disabilities doesn't mean they're not going to be successful people in life.
So when you were looking to adopt, was that sort of something that you said, you know what, I want to give somebody who other parents may not want to give a child a chance. I want to focus on somebody who could really use my extra help.
Actually, no. We adopted my daughter, who's neurotypical, first, and a number of months later, the adoption agency said to me and my ex-wife at this point, we have this family who is looking for a home that, however, they have disabilities. We want them to be, the family to be Jewish. We want the family, and they had 6 or 7 different criteria. And we were like, and the agency passed this on to us to pass to our rabbi. And we said, we'll pass it to our rabbi, but this really sounds like something we could do. And so we said, what about us? Because we met all the criteria on that list. And so we, in the long run, ended up adopting those children.
That is really like so impressive. And it's so rewarding to really make a major difference in their lives. That I'm really impressed with you.
We're really blessed to have the 3 kids in our life.
Great. What do you remember the name of the agency that you used, or how you found?
It was, the lawyer was Michael Goldstein, and we also worked with his wife, who was at Forever Families Through Adoption, and they were a wonderful agency.
That that is great. When you had your bar mitzvah, you read a Torah portion concerning priests, and do you remember what the Torah portion was? And
it was Emor, and I remember in the Torah portion, my favorite part is that it talked about the sacrifices and the festivals and the rules. And one of the things that stuck out with me is, after discussing the priests who served in the Holy Temple, I saw that there was a common phrase that reoccurs again and again throughout my Torah portion, which was Kedoshim Yehiu Le'Elohechem. They should be holy or sanctified to their God. And I talked about how each of the festivals is a Mikra Kodesh, a sanctified time. And I went one step further, and I looked at the word Kadosh, and it was one of my father's favorite words as a rabbi or as a rabbi and in general, and it meant that you have to maximize your potential. And that means to be the very best person, father, teacher that I can be. And every day I work in and look into my work and feel that I have made a difference in the kids' lives, maximizing my potential.
And you also have a BA and an MBA?
I have a bachelor's degree and a master's degree in special education and computers in education, and I'm certified in special education and elementary education.
So with your disabilities, was it harder in college, to fit in?
It was much harder, and I had to take advantage at Long Island University from the services from the Academic Resource Center, or ARC, that helped me compensate for my learning disabilities.
And when you were growing up, a lot of kids when they're in sixth grade, they get bullied. And did you ever have an experience being bullied as a teenager?
I did, by some of the other kids, and I always had trouble when I was bullied by other kids. And I had actually my brother helped me with that. And I blessed my little brother with helping me with that, Matan.
Right. And so what advice would you give to parents who have teenage kids who are at the age of bullying?
I would advise them to find a friend, make sure their kids find a friend, because having one good friend is more important than having 10 so-so friends, and make that good friend help, and hopefully that good friend will help the one being bullied.
Right, we only have less than a minute left, and I'm wondering if there's anything else that you'd like to highlight.
Just how the family unit is so important to making sure kids succeed. And that's kids no matter what disabilities or help they need, and every student should get help.
That is great. Well, you're definitely an inspiration, and I'm so glad that you took the time out of your schedule to be on this program. My guest is Yonatan Koch, and he's a congregant at Woodlands Community Temple in Greenburgh, and one of the most popular people in the whole synagogue. And he continues to inspire a lot of people and make a difference in other people's lives.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.